Welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and this week I'm customizing this DTM spec Opel Calibra. It was made in China and marketed under the REALTOY, Edocar, Trackstars and Hot Devils brands. There were probably more that I'm missing from that list too. I will be giving this model its original 1993 livery as seen here, driven by Keke Rosberg. To achieve this, I've bought some decals from Le Mans Decals and a replacement rear wing and wheel set from Diecast Details. So the Calibra was produced by Opel from 1989 until 1997. It was marketed as a Vauxhall in the UK, Chevrolet in South America, and as a Holden in Australia and New Zealand. Opel belatedly introduced the Calibra as a replacement for the Manta, which had gone out of production in 1988. The Calibra's underpinnings were based on the Vectra A platform, otherwise known as the Mark III Cavalier in the UK. Unfortunately, this rooftop rivet holding in the window piece almost destroyed my build. It snapped in half attempting to remove it. But the lines were pretty clean, so I thought I could at least try to repair it and conceal the brake as best I can. It's not looking bad after sticking it together with Yoo-Hoo. Since the Calibra was based on a large family car platform, it had those very same characteristics, though it did have a stiffened chassis. It also meant it was relatively practical compared to other coupes of its size. Its slick body was designed by General Motors' Wayne Cherry and German Erhard Schnell. Between them, they produced the most aerodynamic production car in the world. A drag coefficient figure of 0.26 was achieved, helped in part due to its slim 7cm or 2 3/4 inch high headlamps. The Calibra remained the world's most aerodynamic production car for 10 years until 1999, when the Honda Insight launched. Engine options on early Calibras were an 8-valve 2-litre producing 115 horsepower, or a Cosworth designed 16-valve red top that produced 150 brake horsepower. Transmissions were either a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual gearbox. In 1992, a turbocharged version of the 16-valve engine was added to the range. These models were all-wheel drive. They had independent rear suspension and utilised the rear axle of the larger Opel Omega A. The drag coefficient on these models drops due to changes required to the cooling system, underbody, and the use of different wheels. The all-wheel drive cars had a 6-speed manual gearbox with no auto option. However, the transfer box was delicate. Minor differences in tyre wear between tyres or different tyre pressures front to rear could cause damage to it. It was strongly recommended that all 4 tyres be of the same make and be replaced at the same time, even if just one suffered a puncture. Opel also recommended swapping the front and rear wheels every 24,000 kilometres. In 1993, a 2.5-litre V6 model was introduced. While not as fast as the 2-litre turbo, it did away with the all-wheel drive system, making it easier to live with. The larger engine produced 168 brake horsepower compared to the turbo's 204. Opel would go racing with the Calibra in the Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft in 1993. These cars used the all-wheel drive system mated to a longitudinally mounted V6 engine. Power output on this tuned engine was 410 horsepower. It made its debut in the white and yellow Opel livery I'm recreating today. Team Joest ran the Opel outfit, beginning with that first outing at Hockenheimring in September 1993, the season finale. I have some footage of that race at the video outro. The Calibra was not an immediate success, with Manuel Reuter retiring from the first race and not starting the second. Keke Rosberg earned 4 points with a 7th place finish in the first race, but retired from the second. Opel said that the result from this race was not a true reflection of the car's performance though. Reuter and Rosberg were joined by John Vinter as drivers for all DTM races in 1994. Reuter and Rosberg scored a podium finish each that year, with third their best result. Rosberg actually won the race at Donington Park, but that result did not count towards the championship, as it was an overseas non-championship event. Midway through that year, Opel revised the Calibra with a facelift, where the manufacturer badge was incorporated into the grille. There were also other equipment and safety updates, such as passenger airbags as standard and strengthening bars in the doors. By 1995, power output on the DTM Calibra was up to 470 horsepower. Team Joest would enter 4 drivers in the Calibra, while Keke Rosberg set up his own team, Team Rosberg, driving alongside 1994 champion Klaus Ludwig. 1995 saw the championship split into 2 segments: the domestic DTM held at German racetracks, and the International Touring Car Series held at European venues. Opel were again not hugely competitive. Their best result was second in the ITCC, but they finished third of the 3 manufacturers at the end of the season. It was the same overall result in the DTM, but Klaus Ludwig managed an impressive double victory in the season-closing event at Hockenheim. For 1996, Rosberg hung up his driving gloves, with fellow Finn JJ Lehto taking his seat, alongside Hans-Joachim Stuck. Opel produced an all-white production Calibra called the Keke Rosberg edition as a tribute to their driver. Klaus Ludwig remained with Opel, but with the Zakspeed team, who had jumped from Mercedes to the Calibra. Team Joest continued to operate the factory team, and Gianni Giudici also entered a Calibra at selected events in the now renamed ITCC. This championship merged the series' domestic and international races. Manuel Reuter started the season with a win for Joest Opel at Hockenheim, then took victory at the Nürburgring. Rosberg Opel won the doubleheader in Helsinki, before Ludwig took his own double for Zakspeed at the Norris Ring. The Alfa Corsa team running Alfa Romeo 155s, similar to the Matchbox model I customised a short while ago, began catching up with Opel mid-season, following a streak of 6 consecutive victories. At the second Hockenheim race, Ludwig and Reuter took victories for their teams, the final Opel victories of the season. It was enough to win Opel the manufacturer's title from Alfa Romeo by 9 points. It was also enough to earn Manuel Reuter the championship, beating Mercedes driver Bernd Schneider to the title by 13 points. Opel, alongside Alfa Romeo, announced in the September of 1996 that they would be pulling out of the series at the end of the year. This was due to high costs and low viewership. The series was subsequently cancelled, and the DTM would not return as a domestic championship until 2000. By the time Opel made their announcement, the Calibra was on its way out. The Vectra A or Cavalier, the platform on which the Calibra was based, was replaced by the Vectra B in 1995. However, the Calibra would continue in production through until 1997 with a series of special editions. Alongside the Keke Rosberg were DTM, Cliff and Last editions, produced in numbers of around 1,000 each. The UK also received some Calibra Turbo Last editions, which featured all black paintwork and IMSHA upgrades. In all, just under 240,000 Calibras were built between 1989 and 1997. While the smaller Corsa-based Tigra Coupe was available at the time, there would be no direct successor to the Calibra. The Astra Coupe would arrive in 2000 as Opel's next mid-sized coupe offering. And that neatly brings us on to the closing stages of this build, where you might notice the dustbins I've placed on the base of the model. Anyway, this was how the REALTOY built Opel Calibra DTM looked, missing its rear wing. While REALTOY and other brand names did offer this casting with knockoff real-life liveries, this one was a rather plain red. I felt that it was in need of a proper racing livery, especially one where I could delve into the competitive history of the Calibra in the DTM. So now, with a new and massive rear wing, here's how it looks. Le Mans decals have nailed the decals for this scale. I think that they fit the casting very well indeed. After snapping the transparency in two, I've tried my best to conceal the breakage. The drawn-on wiper and visor decal has benefited the front, and while there was little I could do to cover up the back, the fix itself looks pretty clean in my opinion, despite it suffering the worst of the damage. Yes, that rear wing is a bit overkill in terms of size, but let's just imagine Opel were running a high downforce setup for this one. The Diecast details wheels replicate the BBS rims from the earlier photo quite nicely, but maybe those gaping exhausts are a bit much. Let me know how you feel about them and the build as a whole down in the comments. Be sure to like and make sure you're subscribed too. But all that leaves me to say is have a great Christmas, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.